Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight, dieting, and constantly feeling like you're starting over with nutrition and fitness? Do you wish you had more energy? Do you want to lose weight and finally keep it off for good? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse. I too have been there, and at the age of 44, I decided I was done with fad diets and chasing a lower number on the scale. I was so tired of constantly starting over and wondering why I couldn't get lasting results. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best formula for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, the scale, and your body, let's build your formula for feeling your best. If you're new here, make sure to check the episode details for the link to my newbie starter guide. You'll receive an email straight to your inbox with everything you need to start building your Feel Your Best formula. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Today's mini session, I'm going, why have we not talked about this? This is the perfect topic for a mini session. And honestly, I don't know why we have not done this before. But in today's mini session, we're going to answer the question, do I really need to count macros? Do you need to count macros? And you might be a little bit surprised by my answer because obviously the name of my nutrition coaching business is Macros with Lil. So you would assume I'm going to sit here and say, everybody should be counting macros. It's perfect for everyone. It's the only way that you're going to lose weight. You know, all those standard things that you see when people are trying to get you to start a new diet program. However, if you've been around here a little while, you know I am not a fan of black and white thinking. The world is nuanced. What works for one person may or may not work for you. And guess what? Counting macros is absolutely not something that every single human being should be doing. It's also something that a lot of people could benefit greatly from doing in just getting a better understanding of how the foods they're eating are affecting their body. I know a lot of you are confused by macros, and the thought of counting macros feels really overwhelming and complicated. I get it. I have actually tried to count macros multiple times in the past before I finally figured out, hey, it's really confusing and complicated to try to eat perfectly with your macros in terms of hitting your protein, carbs, and fats. So I just focus on calories, proteins, and fiber and let the carbs and fats fall where they may. That simplified everything for me. And part of my Lose Fat for Good workshop is showing you this is an easier way to track your macros. Obviously, some people need to track all 3 macros, but for most of you, with no underlying health issues, then it's perfectly fine to just track your protein and fiber, which simplifies the process. So if thinking it's complicated has been holding you back, it is really easy to dive in and just start learning how to count macros. I have to say, really, the all in or all out mentality when it comes to macros is probably the biggest piece that keeps people from using this as an effective tool. And as we go on in this podcast, I'm going to talk a little bit more about having a little bit more relaxed approach can help you actually use it for successful long-term goals. And counting macros, as I said, is not for everyone, but many of you could benefit from just eating more whole foods and accepting the fact that you need to stop dieting and learn how to eat when you're not on a diet. And you don't necessarily need to count macros in order to do that. Counting macros is best for those of you who are serious about working towards your goals and educating yourself on what a more balanced and nourishing way of eating looks like. Listen, if you're not interested in really understanding and educating yourself, then it's not really worth it to you. But if you are interested, then you're going to learn about macros because that's what it's all about. Whether you took a class or you just started tracking your food, you're going to learn about macros because macros are the macronutrients and then you have the micronutrients, but it's part of the conversation and is the foundation for how your body, it's the only way that your body gets energy. So what I would say is if you're not really interested in really making change and you just want to feel like you're eating healthier, you don't necessarily have to use macros. You can just look at foods and say, okay, I'm going to eat more whole grains. I'm going to eat more lean protein. I'm going to eat more healthy fats. I'm going to eat less calorie dense treats. And you kind of can know what that looks like. You're going to eat more salads and go through the drive-through less often. But if you really want to have an understanding of how to balance things and also fit in foods like going through the drive-through in a way that still allows you to nourish your body and give your body the nutrients that it needs, and you want a deeper understanding of that, then counting macros can be really helpful for you. If you're someone who's constantly feeling like you're dieting, you're putting this effort in and you enjoy having healthy habits, but you're getting frustrated that you're not seeing changes in your body, then macros could be a game changer for you. I am that person. I've always enjoyed cooking healthy recipes. I mean, I started a blog about cooking healthy recipes over a decade ago. I always loved talking about healthy habits, pursuing healthy habits and goals, and it's just something that has always interested me. And so I think if you have not used macros to help pursue your health and wellness goals, then it's definitely something you need to look into. If you're someone who just has no interest in eating in a more mindful way, you are not going to commit to strength training and you just want to get your activity from walking and just activities of daily life, and you're not really interested in upping your fitness, then counting macros just may not make sense for you. And you could certainly start working on healthier habits just with your eating and getting more steps in and things like that. I would encourage you to strength train. It's so important, but I know many of you aren't ready for that yet. So it's not necessary. If you just want to start building some very basic healthy habits, you don't necessarily need to take that extra step and start counting your macros. When my clients come to work with me, it's because they want to work out, they want to get stronger, they want to lose some body fat and get leaner, and macros is an excellent tool to get you there with the least amount of effort and frustration. It's a bit more of a straight line compared to someone who might be using intuitive eating or some other way of eating where you're kind of guessing and not really having more solid information on exactly how much protein you're eating and how many calories you're eating. So for someone to put the effort into counting macros, it's really about what are their long-term goals, where do they want to go, and I don't recommend using it as just sort of the new fad diet or diet of the week. If you're like, oh, I want to learn how to count macros because I want to lose 10 pounds, I really don't think that's an effective use of macros, and you're just looking at it as another fad diet, and you're probably just going to end up with the same results. And there's a certain school of thinking called If It Fits Your Macros, where you can just kind of take any food, like every food has macros in it. Twinkies have macros in it. A whole grain sandwich full of veggies and lean protein has macros in it. And any food that you put in your body that's giving you energy has macros. And If It Fits Your Macros is an approach where they say, oh, you can eat the Twinkie as long as it fits your macros. And as long as you stick to your calories and you can eat this food. and you're not worrying about the quality of your food choices. Instead, you're just focusing on your calories and hitting your macros. And in my opinion, this approach is just not very useful. When I work with my clients, I really want to see you eating a mostly whole foods based diet. And why is that? Because your body needs the macronutrients, it needs the carbs, the proteins, the fats, and it also needs the micronutrients. And these micronutrients come in the form of whole foods like leafy greens and an apple and salmon and chicken. And your body needs all these different vitamins and minerals, and you're not going to eat them by eating Twinkies and going through the fast food drive through, even though you might be getting proteins, carbs, and fats and be able to stick to your macros. You're not going to be getting those micronutrients that your body needs, and you could end up literally with deficiencies. So I am not a fan of that approach, and I'm really, really firmly a proponent of making sure that you're hitting your macros with a mostly whole foods based diet, with leaving room for those other foods that are not quite as nutrient dense, but you really enjoy. Quality of your food matters. It matters so much with your energy levels, because again, remember, micronutrients, those vitamins and minerals, that's the oil that keeps your body moving efficiently and functioning. So if you're just getting your macronutrients from low quality foods, you're not going to feel that great overall. Even if you do lose weight, it's eventually going to catch up with you. With if it fits your macros approach, you're also probably going to be hungry and struggle with energy and hunger issues. It's kind of like when I did Weight Watchers many, many years ago. It was all about points, and you could just eat whatever you wanted as long as it fitted the points. And it was just, I really don't think it's a great way of learning how to eat in a balanced way. It's just all about losing weight and getting you to eat less calories. So when you focus on whole foods and hitting your protein and fiber goals, it really makes everything a lot simpler, and you actually nourish your body and you feel better. And when you feel better, that is very motivating to keep going. I personally believe the goal should be moving away from tracking your macros. Counting your macros is just a tool, and the goal should be to learn how to eat. Whether you do it for 2 weeks or you do it for 2 years, it should be with the goal in mind that ultimately you don't want to be tracking your food, and ultimately you do want to just know what you eat on a daily basis and what foods you order in a restaurant and how to nourish your body. So if you feel yourself becoming obsessive and strict with your macros, and that's a sign that you need to put the brakes on it and really decide, what are you working towards? Because one of my foundational principles as a nutrition coach is that it's really not that serious. I'm not sure if it's because of my nursing background, coming from high-risk labor and delivery, where it literally was life and death many times when I'm at work, but I just can't get that bent out of shape if you go over on your calories or you binge or something like that. It's really not that big a deal. You can learn from the experience, decide how you're going to approach that situation next time, and put on your big girl pants and get up tomorrow and just get back at it. It's really not that big a deal, and you can catastrophe, or I can't think of the word. You can blow it out of proportion and turning it into this big deal. But you know what also is really not healthy? If you start getting so obsessed with hitting your macros and hitting your calories that it turns into orthorexia, where you now have an unhealthy obsession with hitting these food goals and these calorie counts and everything. It is about having a nuanced understanding that it's not going to be perfect. Some days you might be a little bit over, a little bit under, and you're just aiming to be in this general way of eating within a range and not beat yourself up if you're not perfect. I mean, if you sat there and tried to eat exactly 2,000 calories every single day, you would drive yourself bonkers. Some days you might be over by 50 calories. Some days you might be under by 100 calories. You might be over by 100 calories. It's really not that big a deal because remember, you're using macros as a tool. So on those days where you go over your calories, you say, okay, well, I chose the ribeye instead of the filet mignon. So there's a lot of extra fat. Even though I hit my protein goal, it also came with a lot of extra fat. So maybe next time I should choose the filet mignon, or maybe I should choose the salmon, or maybe I should choose the chicken. And all you're doing is learning from the experience. But blowing it out of proportion is unhealthy because you're using it as a tool. The goal is not to hit your macros. The goal is to learn by using the macros as a guide so that eventually you understand what a nourished day of eating looks like for your body. And when you enter a fat loss phase, yes, temporarily, you're going to be more honed in on those numbers, and you really don't want to be going over your calories too much because you are there to get the job done. But remember, we're not entering a fat loss phase until we are mentally, physically, and logistically ready to enter that fat loss phase, and you will be prepared for it when it's time. Okay, so like I said, the most important thing that we want to learn from macros is what foods work for you, how to eat in a way that helps you feel more energized, enjoy your meals, and keep you full and satisfied and away from binging on calorie-dense, quote, junk food. That's what, you know what I'm talking about when I say junk food. I know that it's controversial whether or not we should say junk food, but you know what I'm talking about. So you're learning, and if you're a little off on your calories or you miss your protein goal by 10 or 20 grams today, then like I said, put on your big girl pants tomorrow and say, what changes do I need to make so that I can really start fueling my body in the way that it needs? And like I said, when you start eating in a way that you're giving your body what it needs, you just feel different, and it clicks. It eventually clicks, and you start craving those foods because you want to feel that way, and you understand you can still fit in those little treats along the way. And now, intuitive eating might sound like a great idea, but honestly, most of you are not ready for this because you have no idea what it actually looks like to nourish your body properly. So many of my clients fill out my application form, and so many of them say the exact same thing. I feel like I'm working out. I feel like I'm eating healthy. I tried this diet. I tried that diet, but I keep gaining weight and I just don't know why. It's probably my age, right? Because most of my clients, actually all of my clients, are 40 or 50 years old or older. And this is where macros can be so helpful for you. When you start tracking your food, you can notice you're eating all this hidden fat and calories, like again, taking up a lot of calories in a very small amount of space. So you don't feel like you're eating a lot, but you're actually consuming a lot of calories. And diet culture has really distorted our view of what a normal, nourishing meal should look like. And I personally believe that many people could benefit from taking some time to track macros before moving into intuitive eating, or else your intuitive eating attempt is just it's gonna backfire. I don't understand how you think you can just eat intuitively when you don't even know what it looks like to actually eat in a way that's going to move you in the direction that you want to go. So, long story short, do you need to count macros to reach your goals? No, there are other approaches you can take, but do I think it could be very beneficial to you? Yes, I think many of you could benefit from using a macros approach as long as you don't start to use it in a disordered way where it becomes obsessive and you're focusing on the numbers and not what you're learning from the experience. Macros is a tool for learning, okay? It's like a class that you're taking where you have the reference book that is giving you the information that you need so you can go out into the world and use that information and make choices in your professional career. That's what macros are. It's a tool for learning. So if you're someone that can handle data and loves to use information to make informed decisions, then I say, heck yes, it's time to learn how to count macros. There is that macro calculator on my website. You can get the link to it in the episode details below, and you can just check it out and see what you think. I've got my Lose Fat for Good workshop, which walks you through the steps, or if you're someone that prefers a more personal approach, you've got my one-to-one coaching option, and there's ways to contact me below as well. So there's the answer to your question. Do you really need to count macros? And it's not a simple yes or no. It's about what you need as an individual, what effort you're willing to put in, and where you're looking to go for the long term. Okay, that is it for today's episode. I will see you back here on Monday for a regular episode at 5 a.m. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check the episode details for my new listener starter guide, and any additional resources mentioned in the episode can also be found in the show notes on my website. You can always find me on Instagram at Macros with Lil, and for more healthy lifestyle tips, recipes, and information on my one-to-one and group coaching services, make sure to check out my website. All the links can be found below. If you know someone else who is ready to start building their formula for feeling their best, please share the love and send them a link to the podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I'll see you back here next week for a brand new one.